Well, when you're Donald Trump and your own Trump-appointed judges are taking you to task for attacking the federal judiciary and ruling against you in your attempts to disqualify the entirety of the Maryland federal bench, you should check yourself. What's the phrase? Before you wreck yourself. Judge Cullen, nobody would describe him as a leftist, Marxist, rogue, unconstitutional, illegal, criminal federal judge, just some of the words Donald Trump has used against democratically appointed ones. He just ruled that not only can't Donald Trump sue the entirety of the federal bench in Maryland because he doesn't like the rule passed by the chief judge in Maryland, consistent with how appellate courts operate, which says if a petition of writ of habeas corpus, so important, so momentous, asking for a person who says they have been unlawfully detained or incarcerated to be brought before a federal judge, when that petition is filed for the judges in Maryland based on the local rule, 48 hours that person can't be removed or sent away to foreign countries. Why was it adopted? Why was it implemented by the federal judge? Because he watched Donald Trump take 200 souls and send them to a torture prison in El Salvador, including one named Abrego Garcia. So Judge Zinnes, who sits under the chief judge, have been dealing with Abrego Garcia, who got accidentally, illegally deported and removed to El Salvador. Judge says, all right, I'm going to make this easy. If a writ of habeas corpus if a petition is filed, which the Supreme Court has said is the sole method, coming off a case called JGG off the spring. Supreme Court said, you got a person like Abrego Garcia and others that went to El Salvador. If you lawyers get writs of habeas corpus petitions filed in the place where the person has been detained, and the judge said that combined with what I just saw, which was the abuse of rules by the chief judge in D.C., Judge Boasberg, and the abuse of human beings, 48-hour timeout. That's what Trump's fighting over. No, I don't want to wait 48 hours for a federal judge to provide due process. I want to send the people in the middle of the night to a torture prison now. This is Willy Wonka, right? I want it now, Daddy. And sorry, I don't know where that came from. And the chief judge of Maryland said, why don't we have an orderly process? Don't remove them out of the country to get away from our jurisdiction. Give us 48 hours to assign a judge. Let that judge hold a conference. Let that judge hold a briefing schedule. Let that judge provide the due process that's required by our Constitution for the 48 hours. Donald Trump said, no, sue everybody there, which is not even, as Judge Cullen, this Trump-appointed judge, who I'm going to read from his opinion in a minute, that's not even the right process. You don't like the local rule established by a chief judge for that district? Because we operate as federal practitioners under kind of two sets of rules. Federal rules of civil procedure, federal rules of criminal procedure. You don't like those rules and the local rules that the judge creates, and you think they're inconsistent somehow with some other law or policy? Then you go to the Judicial Council of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals that sits over the Maryland, and you ask them to rescind the local rule. You don't sue 12 sitting members of the federal judiciary, pick a constitutional fight with them, do an inter-branch warfare, which, as the judge pointed out, is part of your attack on the federal judiciary. You don't do all of that at all. You just try to get the rule changed. But Trump, obviously for other bigger reasons, wanted to try to embarrass the federal court, which backfired. So when you sue everybody in a federal court, they all get disqualified from hearing your case. So the suit, such as it was, got reassigned by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals chief judge to another judge in the Fourth Circuit, not in Maryland. So it landed on Judge Cullen, who's I think in the Western District of Virginia, to handle the matter, sitting by designation as if he were in Maryland. It's very similar to what we just watched in the Alina Habba disqualification matter, where all the New Jersey federal judges got disqualified because they voted against her. And so it got assigned to a judge in Pennsylvania sitting by designation. Same thing. And bad things happened to Donald Trump in both cases. Let me read to you from Judge Cullen's decision to dismiss the case, but also chastise the Trump administration for what they have done. I mean, that's That's what we're watching here. It's not just, he could have just dismissed it with a one-liner, but that's not what he wanted to do. He wanted to make sure that we understood all of the reasons for this. Let me go to the last page of the order, and this is what the judge says. In their wisdom, the Constitution's framers joined 3 coordinate branches to establish a single sovereign. 3 branches of government make up our constitutional republic. That structure may occasionally engender clashes between 2 branches and encroachment by one branch on another's authority. By mediating those disputes, but mediating those disputes must occur in a manner that respects the judiciary's constitutional hold. Citing the Trump versus Cossack case, which is the birthright citizenship case at the United States Supreme Court from 2025. As Judge Wilkinson aptly noted, he's the Fourth Circuit judge who's very well respected and conservative and Republican. As Judge Wilkinson aptly noted in a case posing a similar, though less direct clash, that's the Abrego Garcia case, a reciprocal respect for the roles of the executive and the judiciary may be too much to hope for in this fraught and polarized of times, but it remains the only way that our system of constitutional governance can ever hope to work. Abrego Garcia versus Nome, April 7th, Wilkinson. Much as the executive, Judge Cullen continues, fights the characterization, a lawsuit by the executive branch of the government against the judicial branch for the exercise of judicial power is not ordinary. The executive's lawsuit will be dismissed and its motion for preliminary injunction denied. Whatever the merit of its grievance with the judges of the United States District Court of the District of Maryland, the executive, Trump, must find a proper way to raise those concerns. That's a Trump judge, okay? Rejecting outright and saying that if he hadn't, what the Justice Department for Trump is calling for is a constitutional free-for-all, and he's not going to allow it. He also spent considerable amount of time in ink in this order, and I'm going to put this order up on Legal AF Substack, saying that this administration has gone out of its way to improperly, unconstitutionally attack federal judiciary and individual judges as liberals, as radicals, as Marxists, as criminals, and worse, the judge said. And that has to stop. And it's inappropriate. Maybe it'll get through Donald Trump's thick skull and those of the Department of Justice that this is not a winning strategy at all. Now, we got a bad news day, right? And I've been talking a lot on Legal AF and on Legal AF Substack about when Donald Trump has a bad news cycle, he does something to try to steal the cycle. Watch. Is tonight going to be the night? Because we're here on Tuesday. Is tonight going to be the night that Donald Trump marches troops into Chicago? Because he just got a bad ruling? There's always an attempt to manufacture a way to steal the story, which Donald Trump will use now that he just got a bad ruling here. He gets a bad ruling yesterday in the Abrego Garcia case, in which Judge Zinnes, a Maryland judge, applying the Abrego Garcia rule that's at issue here with Judge Cullen, orders him to sit in the United States while she schedules her writ of habeas corpus evidentiary hearing and briefing. And so she invokes the rule. It's on full display. He didn't like that, Trump. So at night, he tried to fire Lisa Cook of the Federal Reserve, a board of governor, claiming he had cause. You see, it's just they have all of these, they have this inventory of bad things he wants to do, and he times doing them based on how, if he loses the news cycle for the day. That's obvious. So Judge Cullen, in 39 pages, here's the end result. He dismissed the case. He also reminded Donald Trump in the footnotes that if I didn't dismiss the case, get ready for the Homeland Security Director, Kristi Noem, and Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice, to sit for deposition and turn over all their emails and correspondence. In other words, is that really what you want me to do? If you don't like it, he said, take an appeal. And if you really don't like the local rule, then go to the Judicial Council of the Fourth Circuit and argue for it being rescinded, because they have the power under a statute, 28 USC section 2071. Donald Trump should have known that, but he purposely avoided that. That would have been a very quiet way to get rid of the rule. No, Let's disqualify the entirety of the Maryland bench. And I already reported on the oral argument in this case, in which let's just put it this way, eyebrows were permanently raised, and it was a very skeptical Judge Cullen during the hottest of benches when they were arguing for the Department of Justice about why they get to disqualify the entirety of the federal bench because they didn't like a rule. But at bottom, let's not lose sight of this. What Donald Trump is all hot and bothered about is he wants to be able to freely deport people and remove them, send them to third countries where they can be tortured without federal judge oversight. And that we cannot allow. I'm glad you're here. If you want to learn more about this case, go to Legal AF Substack. I've got videos up about this case. I've got this actual order for you to read under Filings AF. Become a member of that community. I'm doing 2 to 3 lives a day where I pull everybody together in a huddle. It's up to 2,000 or 3,000 people where we don't do anything else but just talk about what just happened at 11 o'clock this morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's an amazing group to be a part of. You know, YouTube is great with comments, a little bit static, but a Legal AF Substack, the Substack, very vibrant, very at the minute, and you're going to want to be there. And if you subscribe, you'll get the notifications about the lives. And if you miss the lives, the video is up, but only if you subscribe. That's how that works. So come on over to Legal AF Substack. Check it out. I think you're going to like what you see there. And then if you like it a lot, then consider becoming a paid member as well. That helps keep this train on its track. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.